Here are the top 10 good and bad things about the new Kia EV9, in my opinion. Number 10, the design. Like, it looks very sharp and modern. It stands out as something almost from the future. It's got no front grille, just an opening grille down below because it's obviously electric. It doesn't need a big radiator. But then this upper section is just all one panel. And we've got the vertical headlights, which I'm told will be similar to what's seen on the upcoming Kia Ute. And yeah, lots of edgy surfaces, edgy contours. You've got little hexagonal bits that support the wheel arches front and back. Little crease here. Yeah, it's very detailed and very modern. Around at the back as well, it just looks like something out of the future. What I love about it too is it's all very consistent. The front matches the back and the sides and so on. Even the wheels match the overall design theme. Number 9, good boot space even with the third row up. Yeah, you've got 333 litres even with the third row up, which is huge. You can definitely take the full family on a nice big trip and still have some space left over. Nice little spot for the cargo blind under the floor as well. And you've actually got an extra 84 litres under the bonnet at the front. So this is where we can put the charging cables and so on. Number 8. Yeah, it is very quick. 0 to 100 in a claimed 5.3 seconds, but I've actually timed it even quicker than that. It was about 5 seconds flat. We'll do the 0 to 100 video separately, but yeah, it was around 5 seconds flat, which is extremely quick for something that's not really intending to be an outright performance SUV. In Australia, VFAX categorises this as an upper large SUV below the $120,000 mark, even though the price for this particular variant starts from $121, just the way they classify the vehicles. So that means it goes up against the Land Cruiser 300 series, the Nissan Patrol Y62 and the Land Rover Discovery. None of those are able to do 0 to 100 in an official time of 5.3 seconds or quicker, making this the quickest upper large 7-seat SUV on sale right now. Number 7. Yeah, just on the topic of driving, it's a very nice vehicle to drive. It's been Australian tested. It feels good on the road. It's a refined way of getting around. It's obviously very quiet too because it's electric. So I'll hit the road now and I'll give you a quick demonstration of what it's like. Out on the road, it's a very quiet, comfortable, and overall pleasant vehicle to drive. The suspension is well sorted. As I said, it's been Australian tested and it can absorb pretty rough country roads like this quite well, especially for its weight. It's a bit fun as well. The steering feels relatively precise, provides some feedback. It's not, you know, super engaging, but that's not this type of vehicle anyway. I'll pick up some speed and go over these bumps here. It is a bit wet. Apply some power. Yeah, awesome traction. You've got those huge tyres, even though you've got all that power. That's just the warning system going off because I've got tape over the driver monitoring system because I find it really frustrating. Just here, but it flashes up maybe once or twice on a drive. I've just put it on there. I'll try out the sport mode. Becomes a lot more responsive. You come out of a corner and you can, you know, only need to move your throttle a tiny bit and it will pounce away. Absolutely flawless traction there. You can just, yeah, like look at that. Doing that in a petrol vehicle that's got this much power would probably cause some kind of traction issue. We can probably thank the weight of the vehicle for some of the traction, you know, competence. This thing weighs 2.6 tons. So think of that as like downforce on a racing car. There's a lot of pressure pushing down on those tires, and that basically stops the wheels or helps stop the wheels from spinning. Even if I slow right down, turn the traction off and nail it, just a tiny bit of slip from that front right wheel just for literally a split second, and that was it, in the wet. So crazy amount of grip. It's just different, completely different level to any petrol or diesel vehicle that you'll drive. It's hard to explain, but the sheer breadth of confidence and capability is very, very good. In some ways, having an electric powertrain makes this a luxury vehicle, even though well, technically it's not a luxury or premium vehicle, not classed as a premium vehicle in Australia. It kind of becomes one because it is so peaceful, quiet, and relaxing. Even on a rainy day like today, it's just really calm. You don't need to apply much power, but you've got that effortless, instant response that kind of adds relaxation as well, because you don't feel like you're straining anything. You don't feel like you're straining the engine ever, or the motors. It just cruises along. And if you need to overtake, it just takes off, it pounces. But yeah, then when you just want to go for a cruise and relax, you can put it into eco mode and you'll maximize the range. In fact, let's have a look. So you put it into eco mode, it goes up to 217 kilometers, and then in sport mode it drops down to 205. So you can see there's a definite difference there between the modes. But when you're on the highway or whatever, put it into eco mode and just relax and cruise. It's still got awesome power and response. It's just not giving you the full hit straight away. You need to push the throttle all the way down. Number 6. Yeah, these are the best. I hope Kia never gets rid of them. Very logical. You've got your volume on one side and your track skip on there as well. And then cruise control and all your driving functions on the left there. Just really simple. You don't need to go stupid. I've seen some companies, they try and incorporate everything into sort of like a 4-axis arrow system. It's too complicated. This is just easy, and it looks nice, it looks neat, but yeah, very easy to use. The whole purpose of steering wheel buttons is to make things easier to drive, so you don't even have to look down at them. I can just be flipping controls and things while I'm looking straight ahead. I just hope they never get rid of them. You've also got your drive mode switch down here, and there's a terrain mode too, which we'll get to later on. Number 5. Yep, these things, they're just so soft and just, I don't know, really well done. The only thing I don't like about them is they stick out a bit too much. You can pull them forward and then let it go and it will spring back, but it still sticks out a bit too much in my opinion. Like you've got the backrest there and then the headrest pokes forward. Depending on your preferred seating position, yeah, it can make your head sort of stick out a bit. So you end up reclining it a bit more maybe than you otherwise would. But I just love how soft they are. They just feel really, really nice. They sort of cradle your head. And in fact, these seats, the GT-Line seats, are really nice. They offer awesome support in the sides there. And there's actually like an Ottoman style thing that flips up as well while you're charging or something, where you can just sit back and relax. But yeah, really nice seats, good adjustment, breadth, and just, yeah, very comfortable to drive on a big long journey. Number 4. Massive dual screens here, so it all sort of forms into one seamless panel. There is a join just through here, and this is obviously not, that part's touch operated, but this part's not. It's just the instrument dials. But yeah, lots of adjustable settings here. You can spend hours just fiddling around. There's lots of vehicle settings, which we'll get to later on. Your drive mode, your active sound design. So you can have it on or off or enhanced. Your climate settings, lots of adjustability there. So I think the touchscreen is good, and it's pretty simple to use. Pretty much whatever menu you're in, there's a home button there that takes you back to sort of a centralized area. There are some main controls here. They're kind of hidden. I don't really like that. I'd rather them just be buttons. But so you can just jump to certain things. You kind of got to push it a bit weird. Yeah, I'd rather just a normal button. I don't know why they've done that. Make it look a bit more flash and modern, I suppose. But yeah, lots of adjustment there, and yeah, plenty of things to do. Great touchscreen. Number 3. Yeah, this example has got a range, or offers a range of 505 kilometers on the WLTP cycle, but I've seen on the gauge from a full battery about 555 kilometers, which is pretty good. If you put it into eco mode, that actually bumps up a little bit more, and leave the aircon off. Yeah, you get the absolute maximum. So you could probably get quite easily 500 kilometers in the real world, I think. I haven't actually driven it all the way down to an empty battery, but I think, judging by the onboard calculator and everything, it seems like it would actually cover 500 kilometers in the real world, which is great. I think once the electric vehicles start to offer a proper or more meaningful range, especially in Australia where we're doing a lot of distances, like a lot of us drive an hour to work, for example. Once we get up to the sort of 500 plus kilometer range, I think that's a good medium. Number 2, yeah, you've got chargers absolutely everywhere. You've got a few down there. You've got a hidden one on the side of the seat there, on the other side as well. Oh, in this seat, sorry. And even in the third row, you've got a little USB-C port there. And then in the boot, you've got a 12-volt socket. And on this side, you've actually got a household socket there, 250 volt, 16 amp plug. No shortage of power sources. And then the number one good thing about the EV9, in my opinion, is that it is massive inside. It's a very, very large SUV. You've got so much legroom in the middle row there, and you can adjust the seat right up to the front to minimize the room there, but then you've got heaps of room in the back as well. Jump into the third row. In that setting, I've got the seat slightly forward a little bit, but I've still got knee room there, and the middle row has still got some leftover room as well. I think the most impressive part of the third row is the headroom. I've got heaps of headroom. I reckon I'm 170 centimeters. If I was about 185 or something, I reckon I'd still fit okay in here, maybe 180. But that's still very good for this specific class. You've actually got your own climate vents in the ceiling and a little light panel. And again, yeah, those chargers and even cup holders. If you are looking to buy a large SUV that can accommodate 7 adults, although probably not the biggest adults, but at least accommodate 7 adults, then yeah, the EV9 is definitely one that you could consider, especially if you're after an electric vehicle. There are no other electric vehicles in this specific class right now, so it's kind of got no competition. But yeah, it's definitely very, very big. There's no doubt about that. It's a large vehicle. We've heard about all the good parts. What about the bad? Let's start with number 10. Yeah, it is expensive. This is $121,000 excluding on-road costs, which is obviously a pricey Kia for starters. It's the most expensive Kia ever introduced. But if you compare it against the Toyota Land Cruiser and even the Nissan Patrol, or certainly the Land Rover Discovery, the price is actually pretty average. It's not out of the ordinary. It doesn't mean that it's acceptable, but it just placed in the market, you can see why it sort of fits in at that price bracket. And then this has got a lot more technology than most of those rivals too. The Land Cruiser has mechanical technology, I suppose, where it's, and the Patrol, whereas the Land Rover Discovery has more of the electronic style of technology, similar to this. But yeah, it is expensive, so that's going to be a large pill to swallow for some people walking into a Kia dealership and then thinking, yep, I want the biggest model you've got. They have to spend up as much as that. So the entry model is $97,000 in Australia, so 100 grand model. But if you were to step into a premium vehicle of similar sort of spec and everything, you'd be looking at, yeah, well over 130, 140,000 for like a BMW X7 or something like that. Number 9. Yeah, this is obviously not a serious off-roader. Ground clearance is just 177 millimeters, which is nothing, especially compared with those rivals, the Land Cruiser and the Patrol and the Discovery. That's not going to go off-road very well. And of course, you've got the battery hanging down there. So if you damage that, chances are you need to replace the whole battery. Whereas in a Land Cruiser or Patrol, they've got protection plates and things. And even if you do smash something, it's probably not going to do anything anyway. Like you might hit the part of the chassis or something. Whereas that, yeah, it's a bit sensitive, but mainly it's not equipped for off-roading like those. So the tires are just road tires, premium contact, Continentals. Definitely road going tread on there. And yeah, the lack of the ground clearance really limits its off-road capabilities. Again, you might not be after something that can go off-road, but if you're tossing up between the Land Cruiser, Patrol, Discovery, this comes up the worst off in terms of its off-road capability. Number 8. Yeah, modern design can be a bit ostentatious, a bit show-offy. Obviously this is not a big issue, but it can be. You know, if you just want an electric vehicle, a large 7-seat electric vehicle, as I said, there's not many, there's none that I know of. You have to buy something like this, and you might not want to stand out. Like this definitely stands out when you're driving along. This color is not so bad, but when you're driving along, it just stands out like nothing else. At the moment anyway, while it's still fresh to the market. Give it a year or two and it'll probably blend in a bit more, especially as Kia comes out with its other EV models with a similar sort of design. Probably won't be as it won't stand out as much. But yeah, right now it's pretty loud and pretty like, wow, what are you driving now? You know, what's that? You might not want that attention. If you do, great. I'm just saying that some people might not want that attention. Number 7. It's actually longer than a Land Cruiser 300 series, and I'm just referring to that because it's, you know, the most popular large SUV in Australia. Everybody knows what a Land Cruiser is. So for this to be even longer, that's a pretty big sort of statement. It's easy to relate to that. It's almost 2 meters wide, which means if you're living in the city or inner suburbs, it's going to be a bit difficult to park. You're going to have to get used to that sort of thing. You're probably going to have to get used to it anyway with any of the rivals, but just saying that is something you're going to have to get used to. It's a big, big vehicle. It feels pretty empowering to drive on the road, like you really got that dominance on the road, that presence on the road. But yeah, if you've just jumped out of a sort of smaller SUV or even one of the smaller 7-seaters and you jump into this, you'll just need to do some adjusting. Number 6. Although it is a $120,000 vehicle, it doesn't really scream and shout that fact. It's definitely very modern inside, but I think some of the plastics and things, it's all reasonably basic. There's nothing that really stands out. Lots of storage and things everywhere, but yeah, you've got like a bucket down there that's just plastic. It does have a rubber lined mat on the bottom there, but plastic all around the dash. Spending $120,000 on an Audi, BMW, Mercedes, or any sort of European luxury vehicle, it just has a bit more, I don't know, depth to it. There's multiple colors and things. I like what Kia has done with the seats by, you know, changing that up a little bit. But just the materials, it just doesn't really scream that it is a $120,000 vehicle. Aside from the technology, you can tell that this is, you know, a very modern vehicle, but that doesn't really suggest prestige and price. Number 5. Although very modern, there's not many buttons around here, and yeah, I don't like that kind of movement where everything is being incorporated into a touch screen, because it's a distraction. When you're driving along, you're looking down, and that actually gets the onboard driver camera monitoring system going. If you start selecting things, it'll start to flash. But yeah, having everything in the screen, it does make things a bit more complicated unless you're used to that sort of thing. I do like that they've left some climate control buttons down here, so you can easily just change things. But if you want to turn the aircon off but still have airflow coming through, you've got to dive into the screen there. And yeah, if you want to divide up the temperature and all that sort of thing, you've got to dive in rather than just have it all on one separate panel. There are some buttons down here for some of the drive modes or the drive functions, which is good. There are buttons here for the common functions, but they're kind of hidden and just they feel and look a bit weird, but at least you've got them there. I like that, having the exposed system there. Number 4. These electric mirrors are just a pure gimmick in my opinion. I don't see what value they actually add to the driving experience. They don't provide a wider view really. And when you're parking and so on, you know, you might lean forward to see some more detail or change the view a bit, where obviously with these, it doesn't matter how much you move around, you're getting the same view. But also at night time, they're very pixelated. They provide hardly anything to look at all. I know in the dark with a mirror, you're not going to see much either, but you see the detail. So you might see a little light or, you know, a cat walking past or something like that. Whereas this, it won't pick up that. It's just very pixelated. Your eyeball has a better resolution, in other words. Whereas these, yeah, I just don't see what they actually add to the experience. I don't think they add safety. They're kind of in a weird spot too. I mean, they're down out of the way, so there's no blind spot, but then you've got the camera there anyway, so it's kind of, yeah, you're getting both systems rather than just one mirror sitting out there. But obviously the main one is that it's expensive. If you knock one of those mirrors off, which is a pretty common, you know, thing to accidentally do, you're up for an all new camera and probably wiring and everything if it really rips it all out, which is going to be it's going to be up for a big cost to repair that. I think this is another technology. There's lots of technologies these days coming out in cars, but this is another one that's just too many tech people getting into the development of vehicles and just adding their 2 cents for the sake of it. If you've got these on your vehicle and I've missed something here and there's a definite benefit, please let me know in the comments. Number 3. Obviously, this isn't a problem specific to the EV9. In Australia, the charging infrastructure is just still too far behind. You've got one station or one plug, or sometimes two, in a lot of the areas where there's a charging station. There's only a few that are set up. Ampol, I think, is one of them that has 6 chargers, which is much better. But yeah, it just means traveling around is you do have to do a lot more planning. And you can't do anything spontaneous. Well, you really got to think about it if you want to do something spontaneous. And I've had the problem plenty of times before. Actually, the other week I picked up a mate from the airport. He was coming from interstate. I was in the middle of charging the car. He said my plane, he was still on the plane lands in about 50 minutes. So I had to get to the airport, which is about 50 minutes away, while I'm still charging, and then pick him up. And then, yeah, I had to unplug early and then pick him up. We had to stop somewhere and charge it again to get home. It's just not as practical as a petrol vehicle, in my opinion, if you don't do any planning. If you do planning and everything and you've got a charger at home, you're able to charge at home, because some people, a lot of people live in apartments where you can't charge electric vehicles. You really got to plan everything, and I think that's a big hurdle for a lot of Australian buyers. The EV9 does come with an 800 volt electrical system, so you've got fast charging as well. CCS2 plug. I couldn't find the specifications for max charge rate, but I think 215 kilowatts is the max charge rate, which is very good. There's some that charge up to 350 kilowatts. If you've got a more accurate answer, please let me know in the comments. I just couldn't find anything. I looked everywhere in the press kit and everything. I just couldn't find the max charge rate, but I did see somewhere 215 kilowatts. Number 2. Yes, the driver monitoring systems and even the lane keep assist system in some respects. So a lot of Kia and Hyundai models, a lot of new vehicles actually, have a camera on the dash here or somewhere here. Some of them put up on the pillar there, and it monitors your actions. And the idea is it'll give you a warning if it thinks that you're tired or not paying attention. The problem I have with it is it's not calibrated, or it doesn't seem like it's calibrated for all shapes and sizes. So I'm pretty short. I like to sit pretty low. So it's constantly going off thinking I'm not paying attention. And then even if I do sort of sit upright and concentrate a bit more somehow, I don't know how, but you kind of just, don't move around, it still goes off when you move. So as soon as you move or look to a passenger to talk, or yawn, if you yawn, it starts going off as well. The most annoying thing though is it turns back on. So you can go into the vehicle settings here, and then you go to driver assistance, driver monitoring, and you can just turn that off. But then still, if you yawn, or I noticed if you get too close to the lane and cause the lane keep assist to go off, it all comes back on. So what's the point of having that button there? I get it that it's trying to be safe, but if you've purposely gone out of your way to turn that off, you expect it to be off. Like, why does it have to come back on? Same goes for the lane keep assist system. So you just hold this button down and it will flash to orange. So usually it's green when you're driving along. But again, if you cause the system to trip out, it'll come back on. So you've got to turn it back off again, but it won't actually let you. You've got to keep fiddling around or wait a certain amount of time to turn that back on. I think the best thing, or best way to get around it, apart from putting some tape over the camera there, is to go back into this system and turn that off again. Like, turn it back on and turn it off again, and it will reset and allow you to turn the systems off. So just then I checked my blind spot and the driver monitoring system started warning and flashing at me. So it doesn't want me to check my blind spot. I'll try that again once it resets. If I start fiddling with the touchscreen here, I'm still looking straight ahead, but I'm just checking the radio station, for example, and it'll start going off. Probably can't see that little eyeball sort of symbol there, but I've had it so it's flashing constantly. It's going bing, bing, bing for a good 5 or 10 seconds, even though I'm looking perfectly straight ahead. And then the number one bad thing about the EV9, I'll just get out of the rain, is the weight. I think weight is its biggest enemy. And I think weight is the biggest enemy of any vehicle, because it affects, or it negatively impacts, not just performance, but also braking, handling, the wear and tear of parts. So these big tires, 21-inch rims, these tires are going to wear quicker than they will on a smaller, lighter weight vehicle, because they're grinding into the ground and they're quite wide as well. So yeah, it's just too much weight. If they can get that weight down, it'll also improve the range as well. So it just affects everything. And I think probably the biggest thing is all that weight is material, it's resources. So you've got this big 99 kilowatt hour battery. That's a lot of resources from the earth. It's made up of a lot of metal and plastic and everything. It's just very resource intensive. If they can get that weight out, I think that'll really improve the overall dynamics of efficiency of electric vehicles. There we have it, the good and bad things about the Kia EV9. Have I missed something? Please let me know in the comments. And if you are thinking of buying one, you might also be thinking of a novated lease. This can be a very cost-effective way of buying a new vehicle, because basically you're reducing your taxable income down. Head over to our friends at Novated Lease Australia. They've got an online calculator there, and it just takes you through step by step the whole process, and you can see if it does actually work well for you. There's a link up in the corner of this video and in the description. Thanks for watching.